All righty. Good morning, everyone. Daniel Ramsey here. James, are you on the line?
I am. Good morning, everybody.
Okay, cool, man. Well, we're about to get started. We're going to wait a couple minutes just to let everybody kind of keep logging in. It looks like we've got a bunch of people who are coming in right now, and then we'll get rocking and rolling. Real quick, so I'm the president of MyOutDesk. I'm super excited here today because James Dwiggins, the CEO of Next Home, is on, and we're going to talk all about what's next. So let's get rocking and rolling. We just got back from Nashville. Um, James, how was that for you, man? What was that like?
Uh, Inspiring, I think, is the best way to put it. It was our first event, and you have no idea of what's going to happen. I mean, you try to plan for everything possible, and you hope for the best. And it was definitely an inspiring event to see all of our members together for the first time. Was magical. I mean, it was the smiles, the emotions, the camaraderie. It was really a cool event. I remember I was standing up on stage when we were doing the award ceremony, and I didn't really have a planned speech, and it was kind of heartfelt to see all these amazing people and see the work that our team has done to help bring everybody together, and you can feel it. Like, it's a very different company than I think what most are doing in our business. So it motivates us to get up and go to work every day. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and for me, it was my first experience with your company. I mean, being the first event. And what struck me was all the orange in the room. There was just so much orange. It was hilarious.
We
Um,
uh, we definitely are owning that color. It's funny. I've been to a couple of events with lots of realtors from other companies, and everybody's like, "Yeah, and you guys really own the color orange." And we're like, "Yes, you'll never wear it again unless you're joining our firm." So yeah, yeah,
I love it. Something that I thought was amazing, and just we'll talk about it a little bit, was the presentation from Pentagram. Like
yeah.
the marketing that you guys have done, the positioning, everything from Luke to the color orange to how the event was ran. I mean, kudos to you. That was an impressive event. And my question, I guess, that what were the top takeaways for you? Like as the leader and standing back and seeing the company grow and all the people interact, what would you say your top two or three takeaways were for that event?
Well, first is it's important to give credit where credit is due. The truth is, as the CEO, I have very little involvement in a lot of what everybody saw. The team here is astonishing. The amount of heart they put into the work that they do, the passion, and it shows. You can see it by just the smiles on their face, and anything that went wrong, they were there to try and fix it right away. And there really wasn't that many things. I mean, when you have a really great team of people that you work with, a lot of those things get ironed out behind the scenes. But so in a way, my job is to sort of sit back and look at it more from a 10,000-foot level.
Yeah.
And it was Nashville was awesome for us. One of the things we really try to do is we want to make our events fun, which is really about our culture as a company. Make it something that's very unique. We want the venue to be part of our company. Obviously, Broadway Street certainly had its fair share of our members attending different bars and things. I saw lots of photos. I'm pretty sure one of my friends, Scott, was singing karaoke, which was interesting. So it was good. I think some of the takeaway that we learned from it was, just maybe a little bit of changes here and there on how we do some of the breakout sessions. Some things to add additional content to give a little more time in between. But we do surveys and we ask people what they liked, what they disliked. I think it's important as an organization that we really focus on knowing the things we did well, but more importantly, the things we could have done better, and taking that constructive criticism and then building that into a better show. And that sort of leads us into New Orleans, which is going to be our next venue. And for those of you who don't know, obviously New Orleans is going to be that now. Yay! We figured
I'm
Broadway
excited.
Street worked. Let's go to Bourbon Street. So we put out a survey on Facebook of, whether Austin or New Orleans would be the chosen venue. The members were overwhelmingly in favor of New Orleans, and so we listened to our members, and we're going to go there in March. Some of the things will be a little bit different. The venue's going to be a lot bigger. We're also going to have a lot more people in attendance this year. We're expecting probably at least 400 people at this conference. We've had a huge number of people sign up already in the past week since we announced it, which is great. But we're going to definitely probably have additional speakers, some additional sessions. You mentioned Pentagram was a really great session. We were just looking at the video of it actually about 20 minutes ago. We've got the video almost wrapped up to share with the members from that session. But yeah, it's going to be every year we want to build and we want to do something bigger and better. We set the bar pretty high in our organization, so if we feel like we've hit it, we know our members will probably enjoy it a lot. The New Orleans venue is going to be fantastic. It's in the French Quarter. It's right in the heart of New Orleans. We got the room block 2 days prior and 2 days after the event, so if people wanted to stay there for a vacation, they can keep the room block rate, and enjoy an absolutely gorgeous city with amazing food. So,
yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. A little house cleaning. If you're on the call, we do have the opportunity for you to ask questions. James is actually going to be, rapping with us for about an hour. Also, just please mute yourself. A lot of call-ins, a lot of computers. We just want to, make it good for everybody. So if you had any questions, you can throw it on the chat, and we'll rock through this. So let's talk about why we're here, and there's a funny story that we'll get into, but today we're talking about the announcement at the conference in Nashville that we built a strategic partnership, and really let's dive into what that is and why we did it and what's important and what should what I frame the next homies know. I love next homies. I think Petya and I have been playing back and forth with that. But tell us a little bit about what we've done together, James, and specifically why we've done it, and to the folks that are listening, and what value they might get out of it.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the studies of successful agents versus what I would call sort of the rest of the industry, I mean, it's no secret that 20% of the agents do about 80% of the business, and then 80% do 20%. And if you spend time looking at the behaviors and what these people at the top do very well, is they're very consistent. If you kind of analyze it, agents will prospect, they'll do a lot of prospecting, they'll get a bunch of business, and then during that time they're doing business, they stop prospecting, and then when the business closes, they have no new business to work with, and so then they start prospecting again. So it's this constant up and down, and that's a good portion of our business. Really successful people in the business have figured out how to keep a very consistent line on that. They know how to get the prospecting as part of their workflow. They consistently prospect while they're doing business, and then they continue to grow it. And I think that has a lot to do with how to best manage your time, knowing what you're really good at, and identifying things that you're not very good at, and then having somebody else who may have that as a strength handle that for you so that you're focused on your core strengths. That's very much what successful companies do. Speaking personally, that's what we've done here. Is I know where my core strengths are as a leader in the company, but we bring in people that are better than I am at other things and put them in the right position on the bus to help steer it and move it in the right direction. That's what every successful company has done well. And I think virtual assistants are an extension of that. It's identifying things that may not be a best use of your time, or things that you don't have the time to do, and then having a qualified person handle that so that you can, instead of doing this up and down part of your business, it's very straight perspective or growth. We saw actually Keith Robinson, our head of strategy here, who's been an amazing addition to our company, looked at this not only being a successful agent himself, but having run other successful real estate companies, really identified that this could be a very useful component in our in our toolbox of things that the company offers, so that our agents, when they get to that level of growth and they're like, all right, I'm doing 6 to 8 deals, or I'm doing 12 deals a year, and I want to get to 16 or 18 or 24 deals a year, they have a resource that they can go to candidly, that's not going to be as expensive as employing somebody here in the United States and with all the labor laws and everything else, but someone very qualified to take on a lot of the things that they probably don't need to be doing with their time. And MyOutDesk is a perfect partnership for that. And obviously that starts with us at corporate, like we do with everything, probably to a fault. We're a little picky about testing products, but you know, we wanted to try it out for ourselves before we recommended it to our members.
Which gets us to our next slide, which is hilarious. So just for everybody's not like this isn't we're not talking about a product that James is like just rubber stamping. He and I we chatted last year and he was skeptical, and I love skeptical clients because it gives us the opportunity. And he's like, look, Daniel, I'm a CEO. I run a huge organization. I have a lot of people that I have to answer for. You know, prove to me that this product will actually provide value. And I said, well, would you like to just, you know, use my virtual assistant? So tell them the story about my VA and how that worked out.
Well, her name is Rowena, and I love her to death. She's almost like family at this point. So let me back into this. You know, for people that know me, I'm a fairly controlling person. I don't like to let the reins go until I'm comfortable with people that I work with. You know, we've hand chosen every person that we work with here, so that gives you kind of, you know, context to the little bit of the possessive personality that I have. But you know, Keith was very instrumental in pushing me internally to say, look, you know, I've been using one, and you know, I think it was Rowena at 1.2, but you know, she's fantastic. And Keith kind of kept making these points of, look, if you're going to grow as a leader of a company, then you have to figure out a way to make sure that you're not spending your time doing things that are not in the best interest of the whole organization. And that really stuck with me. I thought about it where, you know, I need to make sure that all the time I'm spending on a project or things that I'm working on are for the benefit of the whole organization, and that is the best use of my time. And you know, as the company's grown a ton, you know, there's more emails coming in, there's more members, there's a lot of people drawing on your time during the day, and that's hard to balance. Personally speaking, I was raised and I was brought up by a couple mentors of mine to be the person that responds via email and be the person to answer the phone, and I'm still ingrained that way, but that's impossible to do as any organization gets bigger. So it was a tough process to get comfortable with the idea of having somebody start to take over, you know, certain parts of my world. But like anything, you got to jump in feet first. And so Daniel was very graceful in letting me work with Rowena, who he's been working with for a long time. And you know, in fairness, she's obviously very qualified. She's, you know, been doing this for a while, and so, you know, it was a transition. But you know, once I started to do things with her and start to push things off, it really started to free up not only personal time but business time, so that I could focus on bigger, more important things to continue to grow the company or provide more value to our members. And you kind of just have to go with, you got to take a deep breath and go, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to let her handle this, or I'm going to push this off. And in a way, you also know that going into it, there will be a few mistakes here and there, but that's no different than if you had somebody working in your company. People make mistakes, and sometimes mistakes are a great way for people to learn. And so, you know, there's little things here that you correct, but having used her now for, I don't know how long, we've had her for 6-7 months, yeah. I honestly don't know how I would go back, truthfully. And you know, I sort of have a list of things in my head that I'll share. They're, you know, some of them personal, some of them business, on some of the things that she does for me. But it's been an amazing experience, and I personally think that there's a point where you have to look at, now I understand this better, you have to look at what you're doing on a daily basis, and I call it like a time and motion study. So you look at the activities you do during the day, and you analyze that over a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and you look at them and you go, does this actually get me towards my goal? That goal could be more time. That goal could be more time with my family. It could be more money. It could be whatever it might be. You identify those goals, and then you analyze that and go, are these things the best use of my time to achieve that goal? And that's where they become, part of that process is, well, this is something that Rowena can handle for me, and that'll free up an hour of my day. An hour of my day, candidly speaking, is a lot of time that I can put towards, much more important things, or in my life, being the fact that I travel a lot, I'm on airplanes a lot, I'm all over the country. If I can free up an hour of my day to work out or have time in the morning to sort of just regroup or, have breakfast and just have a little extra time, then that's huge for where I'm at. So.
Yeah, and well, let's unpack, because there's three concepts in that conversation that are so important. Number one, you were resistant to the idea. One of the biggest challenges is that MyOutDesk, the company that I founded, actually built this industry. Prior to us, doing this in 2008, there was not a company that focused on real estate professionals and freeing them up to give them more time and or autonomy to focus on what really matters. So what would you say to somebody who, likes the concept of having more time, likes being more free, but they're worried about taking that step? What would you say to them, James?
You just got to dive in. I mean, you need to do that time and motion study, identify these things, and go, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to make the investment. I know going into it there's going to be some corrections, but what will happen over a little bit of time is those things will now be handed off, and whatever that piece that you're looking for, I mean, who doesn't want time, by the way? I mean, that's the one thing, that's the only thing we get. And I know in real estate we work 7 days a week. There's no time off. It's kids and family and whatever, and you're always on. So in this profession, I think more than any other profession, that's the one thing we are trying to get back. And it's really trying to figure out how to find what that is you're looking for, and then using a resource to get that to happen. And this industry is we're all very, picky about how we handle stuff. We're salespeople. There's only the right way to do things, and so you have to let go of that fear. I did. It took a while to do, but once I did, and once I embraced it, I started to push things off. What ends up happening though is this. Things start to occur where you're like, wow, that was easy. That wasn't as bad as what I thought it was going to be. Or it was, wow, I now have that hour I'm looking for. Then what happens is you start handing more stuff off. And then it becomes sort of almost a game of, well, what else can I push off of my plate to free up more time or to get things that I'm looking for? And before you know it, it becomes part of your life. And to your point, it's not just business too. Personally, I mean, Rowena does a lot of things for me that helps organize trips that I'm going on, right? If I have a vacation usually, and I'm sure everybody on this webinar can relate, right before you go to your vacation, all your business comes in. Usually you get more deals than you ever thought you were going to have. And last minute packing, right? You're trying to think of everything to throw in the suitcase. And the last thing you thought of was what you're going to do on the trip you're about to take, right? So as an example, one thing that I do when I vacation is I really try to disconnect, but Rowena will spend time researching all the activities and things that I can do before I go, and so I can actually have her say, oh, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, and then she'll actually call and schedule all of it, or whatever it might be. It could be just relaxing, it could be going to rent a jet ski or whatever, and she'll arrange all of that so when I get there I'm actually vacationing and I'm not stressed out trying to figure out what I'm going to do during the week that I'm vacationing. Just as an example of something that she'll do for me on a personal level. So.
Yeah. And what's that like, that kind of freedom of knowing somebody's got your back, you can ask them to do something simple? What's that like? I mean, if you were to think back on when you didn't have it to today.
Well, the first go-around with that was my trip in June. I always do, my family always does this retreat to wine country every year. It's an annual tradition that we do. And literally the day before I was still working on business stuff, and I texted Rowena and I was like, hey, I'm going to be in the wine country for a week. I'd like to go to some wineries and some restaurants and whatever. This is what she did, and I'm not making any of this up, so everybody has context. She went out and researched all the top wineries closest to where we were. She then also looked up all the restaurants. She took up the Yelp ratings. She did all the research on times available. She put all of this in a Google Doc, sent this to me, And I'm like, I didn't ask her to do any of this. She just did all of this stuff. So all I had to do was Monday I'd like to go here, and this is the winery we'd like to taste at, and here's the restaurant we want to go to dinner, and it was just all done. It took me literally 4 minutes to do, and my entire week was planned.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like I wish I had been doing this a lot longer. So
Yeah. So, I mean, that leads us into the next question. Looking back, what's the biggest difference between now and then?
Well, from a business perspective, I can tell you that I am now able to focus a majority of my time on the things that are actually most important to the organization, which is growth, not only for the franchise but for our members, making sure that we're looking at products. We're able to like last week I was at the Inman Connect conference for a week, and Rowena
Yep.
was helping scan emails for me. She was paying attention to Facebook posts. She was doing a lot of things for me that allowed me to stay focused on the meetings, looking at new vendors, meeting new partners, looking at new products, going to sessions, learning about things that we can now take back to our membership. Had that not been happening, I would have had to been distracted, checking my email, looking at what's going on, trying to figure out where I needed to be, and that's sort of an example of how she's been able to free that up. So looking back, doing it earlier, truthfully. Now, I mean, there's a cost, obviously, with everything, and as a company, we're 19 months into this thing, 20 months into this thing, which is crazy to think it's only 20 months, but, you have to look at where you are in your career and how you put this into your budget. But what ended up happening was, for us, it was a very easy expense because it allowed us to take the time of our team, or in my particular case, my time, and focus on things that are actually growth related. And so, like I said, if I were to get an hour or two a day to focus on growth related things, the money that it costs to have a VA is paid back almost instantly because I'm now focused on things that generate more revenue for our firm.
Yeah.
And so it's people go, oh, well, it costs money. Yeah, everything costs money. You have to invest into your success. It's a matter of knowing when to do it and then looking to make sure that when you do it, you free up that time. How are you going to generate that revenue back to both cover that expense and then make additional money? And it's a really easy scenario for us.
Well, let's talk, I mean, because that is what everybody's thinking, and it's the next question. So just so we're clear, there's an initial period where you have to adjust to that virtual assistant, and it's the beginning stages, and you have to kind of get in alignment with them, share with them the job description, go through what is necessary, and kind of, so in your experience with your folks, like, what was that lag time, and then how long should a real estate person kind of prepare to get that person up to speed and start adding value so that you can focus on your one thing, which should be generating revenue and growing your company?
I think it's an answer that is dependent upon what you're doing, but I will say this: it's like anything, right? If you have a good manager, people learn quickly. If you have a bad manager, then the team that works underneath you doesn't learn very quickly and they make more mistakes. I candidly would tell you that the success of your VA is dependent upon how good you are as a manager. If you're not spending the appropriate time teaching them, then you're going to fail. If you are trying to do everything that you have always done, and you're scattered and your VA is trying to figure things out because you're not giving them proper instruction, well, they're going to fail. But that's no different if you hired an employee in your company. You have to have proper instruction to give them the tools that they need and what they're looking for so that they have that training so that you don't have to worry about training them any further. So to answer your question, Rowena and I spent a lot of time going back and forth. We would either do video conference calls in the morning. By the way, just everybody knows, technologically speaking, you can do FaceTime and you're basically in the room with you. And we go over the projects. Obviously, we're more of a corporate company, so we have proper training, and we've done this a lot, so we know how to train people appropriately on the systems. Rowena has been already trained, and your company does that, where they train them on calendaring and appointments and research and all of that stuff. So there wasn't any training to do there because she already knew how to use Google or Outlook or all of these things. That made it very easy for us. For our stuff, it was training them on our technology and some of the things that we do. But I think people have this perception, and I think it's important to state this. Yes, they're in the Philippines, but that doesn't mean anything. Rowena speaks perfect English. She is very intelligent. She is very resourceful. She does things way beyond what I even ask her to do, which is amazing sometimes. And you know, they do a very good job of being on your time zone, working on your schedule. She knows. I'll give you another example. She does these things, and I don't even ask her to do it. When I have to take a very early flight to the East Coast, like when I'm up at 4 a.m. and I have a car taking me to the airport or whatever it might be, she gets up at the same time that I do just to make sure that my flight's okay, that I'm, you know, getting on the plane, whatever it might be. I never ask her to do that. She just does it. And, you know, candidly, I don't know if somebody that I employ here in the U.S. would do that. So, you know, unless we were telling them to do it, she does an amazing job. And it's, again, training them on a lot of the pieces. And I would say 30 days, probably, by the time I started with her, and by the end, she had things down. She had things down pretty quickly for us. So.
Yeah, good, good. And if, I mean, I love what you said. I want to go back because your leadership will determine the success of hiring, whether it's a virtual assistant or a physical person or a contractor or anybody. It's all tied to your leadership. Talk a little bit about what they ought to do. What should somebody within Next Home do to verify or to get ready or prepare for hiring their first virtual assistant?
So if I was an agent today, or even a broker, by the way, a broker could do this and have somebody available to work in your company. But if I were to start fresh from that perspective, I would literally sit down and do this, what I call time and motion study. It's what am I doing during the course of a day? You got to get creative here. Phone calls, emails that you shouldn't be responding to, that are not maybe best use of your time, that somebody who can work on your behalf can answer. Calendaring appointments, making sure that appointments are scheduled and followed up with. Anybody ever gone to an appointment where somebody doesn't show up because they forgot about it? Have Rowena call in advance to confirm the appointment so that you're not wasting an hour of your day to an appointment that nobody shows up to. You know, it's looking at stuff like marketing material. Like one of the things that we've done, which I know we'll talk about, but kind of leading into it, is training them on the Next Home systems. Agents shouldn't be spending their time creating a property flyer. That is an example, in my opinion, of an enormous waste of someone's time. The agent's job is to work with buyers and sellers, prospect for more, create relationships, and continue to help them look for, you know, investing in the American dream. Setting up a single property website or a property flyer or all of that is just not a good use of time. It is something that must be done, but that's something that somebody else can do for you that can get the same project done and allows you that extra half an hour or hour, for example, to focus on things that will actually grow your business, or, to the comment we were making earlier, give you more time to do something.
Yeah, yeah. I love it. And like, what advice would you, like, what kind of tasks and it leads to the next question, how do you think it could free up time for a real estate professional? Like, what exactly would you have a virtual assistant do if you're a broker or an agent working within your organization?
So if I was an agent today selling real estate, I would have Rowena scan my email. Things that are more important, she needs to tell me what I need to actually check and what needs response today versus what is a canned response that she can respond to on my behalf, like a lead. What are you looking for? When would you like to see it? That stuff, that's just stuff you can can those responses, or she can be trained to respond to that. Working with clients, making sure that, for instance, if there are 10 past clients you need to call today, that those 10 people are in the calendar with phone numbers so that you can take a half an hour of your morning, it's blocked off, you're calling past clients. We all know that referral business is a large portion of how we be successful. Calendaring, the appointment scheduling, marketing material. I mean, the laundry list is huge. We actually have it on the website of all the things that a virtual assistant can do. But those are the things that you should look for, and if you can get that off your plate and you're focusing your time on the things that will make you more money, if that's the goal, then that's essentially where you would start. It takes a little time. I'll give you another one. I have Rowena scan social media for me. Our members they like to chat a lot in Facebook. We're not as a company in Facebook all the time. We try to be, but We have a lot of things going on, and so she's actually scanning Facebook for responses from members that need to be followed up with. That comes to me in an email, and she'll send it to me, or a private message that'll come across. She'll send it to me saying, hey, so-and-so emailed you, you got to follow up with them. Still, learning how to do all of that appropriately myself, but she's on top of it of making sure that I at least know about it. And those are things that somebody can do, or we miss stuff, So those are ideas that I think that you could definitely do as an agent, and bringing them into your equation it's kind of a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, so our company is set up in 3 different kind of areas, right? So we have all the administrative stuff, so paperwork, contracts, listing coordination, transaction coordination, and then we have marketing and Next Home, and we have training on that within the Next Home platform. And then we have the marketing bucket, which is everything you just mentioned, like Facebook, keeping up on social media, writing articles, like that kind of stuff, and creating flyers and getting listings ready, all of that stuff, all the marketing. I mean, someone just yesterday told me, if you're a real estate person, you're really not selling real estate, you're marketing property. Like, that's what our job is. And then the other one is just phone support. So answering phone calls, if there's a sign call or something, having your cell phone forwarded to a virtual assistant when you're in meetings so that everybody gets an answer. I think those are the 3 categories. And somebody asked how many virtual assistants we have. We're at 1,500 with more than 1,200 clients. So since 2008, our company's grown around 74% every year, because this is just a massive need within the industry. Yeah.
Daniel, I'm looking at some comments here, I'd like to just make sure everybody understands marketing is a small portion of what they do.
Yeah.
And whoever said that your job is marketing, whoever the agent said that, I couldn't disagree with that more. The agent's job is not to market property. If that's what our job is, we might as well just pack our bags and close the shop, because marketing a property is a small, tiny percentage of what we do. What we do is we help clients make decisions. We help negotiate contracts. We help them find things. We help work them through the process. It's like the conversation about searching for a home. That's 5% of the transaction. The contract and everything that goes into that, getting them to actually close, and all of the stuff that we do in that process is what actually makes a real estate transaction come together. And to my point behind this is that other stuff, in my opinion, is the marketing and the figuring out to make sure the property is on your website or it's sitting on Zillow correctly. That's all stuff a VA should be doing, so you can focus on talking to more clients, getting more referral business, following up with past clients. Like, if I were to ask people in an audience, how many of you talk to your clients past year 1, you know that half the room is going to raise their hand, and we know half of that they actually haven't done it. So, it's focusing time on things that will help you grow your business. That's what you need to be focusing on. For me, I don't have Rowena do marketing things. I mean, we obviously have a team for that, and every person's going to be different, but I get probably 200 or plus, that's probably small on a day, emails a day. And when I'm traveling, that is a very difficult thing to follow up with. If I'm gone for 3 days, I get back and I've got 600 emails, which is basically a panic attack, right? So Rowena, what she'll do is she'll help me scan through emails and help me prioritize the ones that need to be taken care of. And as an example, we work through stuff where I'll push stuff off to her, that if it's an email regarding customer service, I'll immediately forward to Rowena, and then she'll work with our team internally to get the right person on the phone so the customer's getting the response they're looking for. It's just always looking for ways to focus your time on the most important things in your life and letting someone else handle the things that just, candidly, you just shouldn't be dealing with. And that's not meant to be that, like, not all emails are important. They are, and every person that sends an email is important. But if you're one person and you have a ton of things going on and there's only so many hours in the day, you have to learn to prioritize what needs to be handled by you or what needs to be handled by someone else.
Yeah, that's good. So we mentioned earlier, or we were kind of talking a little bit about the extra training. Let's focus on that real quick. When we initially kind of started talking about creating this partnership, you were insistent that the virtual assistant got trained on the Next Home platform. Tell the audience a little bit about that.
Yeah, so and I should also just preface that we have a couple of virtual assistants here, three actually here that work with our team. So Tay and I share Rowena. Keith has someone that he works with as well, and then Charis has someone who works with her on the sales side. By the way, all very different skill sets I wanted to add. Sometimes and this is something we should talk about, the VAs, some of them have different skill sets depending on what you're looking for, which is another nice thing. So if you want somebody who's trained on more sales-related things, you have the ability to go through that. They're not all just the same fit into one big box. They have very different skill sets depending on what you're trying to get them to do. But we felt that calendaring and email and appointment scheduling and all of that stuff is great, and it is, but we felt that for our members, what would be even better is that they're also trained on all of the Next Home products and services so that you can have them do all these incredible things to free up your time, but at the same time, we know that we offer a lot of tech, and it keeps getting added to all the time with DocuSign and CRM coming next and all this other stuff we're working on. That it's hard for an agent or broker to be a very good real estate agent, but then also be this tech guru and then also be this marketing guru, and it's just a lot. And so we wanted the virtual assistants to be trained on that time freeing up piece, and then also the products and services in our company so that all of that can be taken off of your plate, and again, focusing our members on the things that actually make money or provide them more time in their day. So,
yeah. What's crazy is we mentioned Charis a little bit, and everybody knows what she does for the organization, and I think this is a big piece. Her virtual assistant is focused on helping her close and find more deals for the company. So we've been kind of focused on the administrative and marketing stuff, and that's good, but the big part of what we do in this space is help, I guess I would say accelerate real estate broker or agent's sales process by providing support to the team. And so that's a big part of what we do, and I'm really excited about that. And especially,
let me jump in on that because I think it's an important thing for people to hear. And this will relate very well to an agent. So everybody on this phone gets leads, and we all know that a large portion of them, never respond, or they ask one question, you never hear from them again, or you're trying to follow up, etc. I'll relate this. So Charis' virtual assistant, Marielle, she basically does a lot of the emails that come in. We have responses that come out to ask additional questions. Our organization is getting above 80 inquiries a month right now to franchise with us. That is a lot when it comes to what we do as a workflow and a process. Some of those are not qualified or they don't have a broker's license. Where I'm going with this, Marielle will immediately respond to these people. She has been trained to ask questions to get answers that we need to know to decide whether that person should be on the phone with Charis for an hour. I'm using the time portion here. Whether Charis is going to spend a bunch of time with them now or whether they're not even qualified at this point to really have a discussion about franchising, and then we move them off into our pipeline follow-up, etc. Relate this to a real estate agent. You're getting leads all the time. You're trying to follow up with who's an interested buyer or who's an interested seller. You've got emails to send out. If you could streamline that and create more, let's just say more canned responses that generate the responses you're looking for, then you can focus your time on the valuable leads and not worry about the ones that are looky-loos or they're never going to buy a home. And you all know what the questions are to ask a buyer when you meet with them, whether they're qualified or whether this is going to be 24 months down the road or they're looking to buy in 6 months. Imagine having a VA that's able to do all of that for you so you're not having to waste your time on that during the day. Just as an example of a different process you could approach with a virtual assistant.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, good. So I want to preference everything that we do because it's not just the extra 2 weeks of training. So first of all, we do an FBI grade background check. We call it FBI grade because in the Philippines it's called MBI. But we do a background check. We're checking references. We're verifying their school that they went to, the college that they went to, and we're verifying their work history. So the people that we hire actually have experience, not necessarily in real estate, but experience working with a U.S.-based company or doing that similar type of job. I mean, we're so lucky that the virtual assistants are in the Philippines and they actually want to work for MyOutDesk. So we do a 2-week training internally for them. We provide them health care. We're also, we do 2 conferences a year, just like, well, most of us all have some large strategic planning event that we do for our company. And so we do 2 conferences a year. We're providing them tons of value because the longer you have a virtual assistant and the more consistent your assistants are, chances are you're actually going to grow your team, and that's going to cause more revenue. So it's really important that you know we're doing a ton of upfront work before you ever even get a virtual assistant, and then you get to actually interview them. So they go through all of our stuff, all of our processes, and then you interview them, and then they go through a 2-week training with NextHome to get them up to speed on the NextHome specific products and systems and tech, all that stuff. And somebody asked tax purposes. What I love about this service, I'm a real estate broker just like James. I mean, I grew up in this industry, and so we for tax purposes, it's like any other expense. It's a cell phone bill or utilities or whatever. You literally can put it on your P&Ls as a simple expense. We take care of all of their taxes, health care, managing them, all the HR that goes on, we do behind the scenes, so that literally you guys are focused, laser focused on what it means to have success within your organization, whatever that job description is for your virtual assistant.
Hey Daniel, I wanted to add just one thing to that so everybody hears this. Rowena has my personal credit card and my company credit card. So when people are concerned about it, she has the ability to book all sorts of stuff for me, both personally and professionally. I've never had any issues. She's had those cards for a while. If I do see a Ferrari show up, that may be a different story, but that just gives you an example of how much we trust the program, and we're pretty big into the security stuff. So you know that should maybe give everybody credibility about the background checks they go through and everything else.
You know what's funny is she also has my personal and my work credit card. So
yeah,
she was my virtual assistant back in the day. Okay, I love it. Let's see. Let's talk DocuSign, because that's next on the docket, and I really love what you guys are building here because it gives us a platform the virtual assistant can work through. It provides massive structure and processes to your agent base, all your NextHome folks. Let's talk about it. What are we doing there?
Well, we just rolled out phase 1 of DocuSign. It was a definitely long process. McKinsey was amazing to handle all of this for us, and I've owed her many beers since she took on the brunt of the training for the company. But no, it's been really successful. People are really excited. We've worked through a few bugs like any rollout. It wasn't quite where we wanted it when we rolled it out, but it was so late just based upon sort of issues we've had getting the product where we needed it to be that we rolled it out a little bit early. There are some upgrades coming this month that is going to help do a little more streamlining of the system flow. But you know, for us, there's 2 components left in our tech that we well, now 1 left after this, but we see as a vision for where our company is moving, where we're innovating more than any other firm in the industry, and you know that's DocuSign is a key component of that. I said this on a panel at Inman last week. I believe the next big conversation that our industry is going to have, we've talked about search and we've talked about Zillow until we're blue in the face. And you know, I believe the next conversation is going to be about where we are with relation to the value we provide as an industry and how we can increase that value long term. Just to give you sort of an example, real estate agents really, consumer sees value in a real estate agent for the time frame in which they're working with the agent, and then it really ends there. Our industry is candidly horrific at following up with past clients. They never hear from us again after 12 months. And what's ironic is this is about every 7 years or so, depending upon the demographic, where people are going to buy a home again. We want to find a way, and we believe we have, where we can create a very different experience for consumers, where the agent is not just handling the transaction during the time frame in which they're buying a property or selling a property, but they become that consultant or that ambassador for the entire life of home ownership. That has a lot to do with data that is available on that transaction. As I talked about at the convention, if a touch point in the CRM, which is an example of what's going to be coming out, is that the roof is only good for another 3 years. When the homeowner buys a house, they take the box of papers, they put it in the attic or the basement, and they never look at the thing again. And the only time they think about the roof is when the roof has a leak and then they have to replace it. So we see as a vision for the future is a way to take key information on that transaction, information that is readily available to the agent and the customer, and moving that into a process where the agent now knows when to follow up with a client over the course of that 7 years before they buy that house, that next home. Oh, look at that. There's a plug. Where they actually have the opportunity to buy that next property, and giving them the key points to stay involved in that so that the consumer doesn't forget about the agent after 12 months but is literally talking to them on an annual basis. DocuSign is phase 1 of that. CRM, which is coming out next, is phase 2. Tay right now is in Chicago, is on a plane to Chicago to meet with DocuSign at their headquarters, and we're working with them on building their system so that they have a strategic advantage to start providing the agents more value than just a system to manage the transaction. That's great. We love that. But there's so much more that product could be doing beyond that time frame that we're managing all the files and getting everybody coordinated and closing the deal. And that's what no one has, and we're innovating with them on developing the first of its kind.
I love it. I love it. And James, real quick, a plug for this. Should an agent be using DocuSign or their CRM?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of systems out there. We looked at Dotloop, we looked at DocuSign, we looked at Rezio, we looked at every possible one. SkySlope is another. We chose DocuSign for some key strategic reasons. One is Dotloop's owned by Zillow. We have a good partnership with Zillow, but we're not comfortable with them having access to the data on our transactions. They're an advertising company. They need to open up additional advertising revenue, and anybody who thinks otherwise about what the intentions are with that is being naive. Rezio was bought by Realtor.com. Well, all right, so same intentions, right? SkySlope's a good company. Technologically, we felt that their product was missing some key things, and candidly, they're a very small firm compared to someone like DocuSign. DocuSign is the global leader in e-signatures. They're an enormous organization worth a fortune, and their business is digital signatures and transaction management. They're not trying to do something else. So we've seen the product grow significantly in the 6 months we've been working with them. We've seen huge hires in their division. They're hiring engineers. I mean, they're dumping a ton of resources into this, and we're in a very unique place because we get to co-develop the product with them, and that's a great way to build something that's specific to the way that we want our organization to work around the product. So there's a strategic decision to do that. I would encourage people to look at it. A lot of people don't like to change. I understand that. I will tell you that transaction management-wise, it's certainly comparable to most products out there. Where we're headed as a company, there will be no other company that will come close to what we're going to be launching over the next 6 to 12 months. It won't happen. So
and it's all value, all for the agents in your system.
It's included. It's part of our member benefit. So it's not like you have to pay extra for it.
Yeah. And if you're challenged with the transfer, meaning you have an old system and you want to jump onto this, or you're ready to make that shift, we actually can provide some help and support on the virtual assistant side. So we're almost getting close to the end. We've only got one more question after this one. So who should have a virtual assistant? This is a very interesting question in my opinion. Who, in your opinion, James, who within your team should have a virtual assistant?
Well, so asking it from an agent and broker perspective, well, I mean, I'll give you a couple of examples. Let's start with a brokerage. If I was running a real estate brokerage, I would love to. I would have a VA, and I would make that VA able to do a lot of unique tasks in the company that could be used across agents. So agents could actually, have the VA do certain things for them. Could be a great value add for recruitment. Could be a great value add for retention. I think that if an agent is doing a certain amount of business, they need to determine what that is. If it's let's say 8 deals a year, and they want to get to that next level, they should look at budgeting how to include a VA in that process, because you will, if you train them and use them correctly, you will provide yourself more time to do the things that are going to make more money. The only reason it wouldn't work is if you candidly failed at training them on how to do the things they need to do. That doesn't mean there won't be a VA that doesn't match right, and that's okay. Sometimes you hire someone and it doesn't work out. That's life. But you switch them out, you find someone else, you bring them in until you find that right person, you incorporate them into your business, and you use them so that you have more time to do it. I don't think, I have yet to find a reason why someone has given me not to use a VA that didn't end up being, in my opinion, them not training the person correctly to do that job. The only excuse I've seen was, personalities didn't match or there were some issues. Well, again, that's fine. The same thing as if you hired somebody in your office. Unfortunately, employees come and go. You have to find someone that that is a good cultural fit for you. But if you use the system, you let go of the reins, you bring them in, you incorporate them into what you do, and then you focus your time on what makes more money or gives you more time if that's what your goal is, you won't go back. Like, I can tell you that I would not, I'm not saying this out loud, I don't know what I would do actually if Rowena wasn't here. Just thinking about that. She texts me every morning my schedule. Sometimes I'm notorious for meetings going long and I miss something. She'll text me and be like, how's the meeting going? It's great. Or I'm running late. She'll call them and say, James is running late, can we move it? It's a courtesy thing, right? So now I don't know what I would do actually, now that I say that. It would probably be really painful to unhook her from what we do and try to figure out how to do that all again. So you got to find the number. If it's, and again, it's probably market dependent, right? If you're selling a home in San Francisco with an average price of $1.1 million, you probably don't need to be doing more than 3 deals a year before it justifies having a VA, right? Or you need to figure out what those numbers are, and then you need to budget it like any other expense, incorporate them, and try it out. Worst case scenario, if for some reason it didn't work, this is just like an employee. At the end of the day, if it didn't work out, you get rid of them. I mean, I hate to say it, but that's just how life is. So.
Yeah. I want to also, a lot of folks are asking about pricing. My suggestion is to actually just go to our website and book a free consultation. So the important thing here is that each business is going to be different, and what we have on our side is folks that are trained to identify the right tasks, the right processes, and the right value that a virtual assistant could bring to actually help accelerate growth within your business. So my suggestion is give us a call. We have a part-time option and a full-time option. The best value is the full-time option because a 1-to-1 ratio is always best. I mean, James has got Rowena locked, stock, and barrel, and obviously he's super happy. But the important thing is to define and create a plan that is specific to your needs, your goals, your organization, and we'll actually help you. And the only risk you have in that is a conversation. Like, we can literally talk for 20 or 30 minutes, and we can identify the right task, identify what's going on, talk to you. The who should have a virtual assistant, I have because we've done this 1,500 times now, I have a very specific answer. If you're doing around 20 deals a year, you probably need a part-time person, and if you're going from 20 to 40, you probably need a full-time person. And I was interviewing somebody within your organization, James, the other day, and I love what he said. He's like, I'm stuck at 50 deals, and I knew something had to change in order for me to make that next step. And he had tried a physical assistant, and they didn't show up for interviews, and he hired somebody, and they never came to work. And when he was one of the early adopters on this program, and he raised his hands, and we did an interview, and we're going to follow up. We're going to send that interview out to everybody, but we did an interview with him. And what I like about his answer was he's in massive growth. So if you're in massive growth, forget what I just said. Those are just kind of goalposts. But if you're intent on growing your company, just give us a call. The only risk that you're going to have, either jump online, check us out, or give us a call. The only risk you're going to have is the time to explore whether or not this is a good fit. And so that's the suggestion. Let's jump on the last question, James. What's next?
Well, I'm going to kind of cover some of that. CRM is our big push.
Yeah.
You know, that's where our resources are focused at this point. We have a few upgrades to do with DocuSign, but that's definitely where all hands on deck are. We're trying to get it so we release phase 1 of that by the end of the year. You know, New Orleans is going to be a big thing for us. We're having our first franchise owner meeting the day before the conference starts on the 7th, and I know some people that want to know more about that. We'll be emailing about that this week. We're at 118 locations now in 37 states, so the company is growing at a ridiculous rate. We've got Jack, who just came on to help us expand on the East Coast. We're probably going to end the year around 150 to 175 offices. I think that's conservative. And next year we're planning to double that size again. So, you know, lots of stuff in the software side, continuing to create more efficiencies. Our marketing material has just been upgraded in Design Center from top to bottom. We have another round of that to do. But we're just listening to our members and continuing to build new things. And I would encourage, you know, Daniel said 20 deals. I would encourage anyone who, honestly, who's feeling like, you know, they're struggling in some area to get to that next level, whatever that level is, to have that consultation. I have no regrets, and I'm not the type of person to get on a webinar and endorse something if I don't believe in the product. That's just not, you know, who I am. Rowena's been a great addition to my life, I should say, and she's helped with so much for me to be able to focus time on the things for our members and spending more quality time with friends or family, and just all those things I couldn't possibly imagine. And the cost is, it doesn't, I feel like I should be paying her more. Just don't tell her that. So.
I love it. And what's next? Because I want to provide value to everybody, if you attended this webinar, all you need to do is say, I saw James and Daniel, and we're actually going to whack $200 off of your setup fee for just signing up for a full-time virtual assistant. And so a little value there for everybody who went through this. I feel like if you actually listened to the entire presentation, you got all of the tips and tricks, let me say that right, to actually make this effective, like hiring a virtual assistant. And you just follow what James said, and with our help, we'll actually launch you, and you know, we'll see you both grow.
Yeah, and if you guys, if anybody does, you know, when you do this, I hope everybody at least looks into the program. You're more than welcome to send myself or Keith. Keith's a great resource on this. Just like, hey, you know, what are some of the things that you have them do? And Keith will be happy to share with you the stuff that he does with his VA. You know, like I said, I'm happy to share the things I do both professionally and personally, and you know, we'll want to make it a success and give you guys that freedom. So.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm being crazy right now, and I'm adding an email. If you email this and just say I watched the webinar, that's a great way to get a consultation. James, you're amazing. I've had so much fun. I've enjoyed this talk. We'll see you next time. Okay.
Thanks, Daniel.
Bye bye, everyone.